Ali, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are beyond excited to be having this conversation on allyship with you. And so, if you could you take a second to introduce yourself to our incredible Girl Up audience?
Hello, incredible girl of audience. I'm WWE Superstar Mustafa Ali. I compete on Monday Night Raw. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. So about for the last 19 years, I've been at it. So a seasoned vet of the ring, but most importantly, an ally of Gorilla.
I mean, that's a lot of years. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
And
thank
so,
you.
yeah, so clearly, Ali, you work with so many talented colleagues at the WWE, men and women. What does allyship look like in your workplace, and how is respect and equity promoted?
I think it's kind of like a double layer question, right? One is how the company presents both men and women, and then you as an individual, what you bring to the table from your past experiences. I'm very fortunate to have a very strong household of very strong women. So it's not something that I had to come to the workplace and kind of learn about. But growing up, I have two older brothers, so I grew up in a very male dominated household, but my mom was this very strong independent woman. She came from another country, got an education, opened up her own business, held multiple jobs, and even after my father passed away, continued to provide for her three sons. So I always saw this not just this motherly figure, but this strong woman. And then to double that up, I met this incredible woman that I have the fortune of calling my wife. And then she gives me my best friend, my daughter. So I'm just surrounded by these very strong, very opinionated women that inspire me every day. And I'm able to bring that to work. And then, like you said, I work with some of the most talented female competitors in the world and in what we do. So for me, it's not so much something that I had to learn. It's something that I maybe brought is with me to the company. But from a company standpoint, we see it every day to the point, and I hope people understand what I mean by this. It's something that should have been normal a long time ago that is now normal. Women main eventing WrestleMania, women main eventing Monday Night Raw, pay-per-views. Now it's normal. Now it's like, okay. And yes, it is a big deal. It is something we should promote because that's not always the case in the past. But what I love the most about what WWE is doing today and what the female athletes of today are doing is they are normalizing what should have been normal a very long time ago. And that's, promoting men and women on an equal platform.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I totally agree that about everything that you said. I think it's super cool that you had the supportive community of females growing up and how that influenced you. And I think on a broader note, athletes and brands are increasingly using their platforms for social good, as we have seen recently. So how does WWE use its influence to promote allyship among viewers and fans?
I mean, again, I believe it's how the WWE presents women both on storylines, on screen, with paid promotions, with commercials. The women are front and center, just like the men are. The probably the coolest example I can give you in recent memory is Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship, which main evented one of the nights at WrestleMania. Main evented, like that is a very prestigious spot. There's been hundreds and hundreds of WWE performers. Very few have been put in that spot. To be put in that spot is to be basically put in the position where you are the most important match of that night. It's a very selective, very, very high, very, very difficult spot to achieve. And two women of color had that spot. So if that doesn't send a message of inspiration and equality across the WWE universe, across the world, I don't know what else does. So again, I think what WWE does is they give, and rightfully so, they give these hardworking women the same opportunities that the men have. Even our last pay-per-view, I remember looking. There's like 4 or 5, main caliber matches that featured all women. So props to all the hardworking ladies at WWE.
Yeah, and talking about visibility and what visibility can do for representation and for perceptions of equality in society, how do you break down stereotypes of masculinity within such a stereotypically masculine workplace?
I mean, the topic of breaking down barriers is something that's kind of like my life mission on a different note. You know, I'm someone that's very clear. You know, as far as what my background is, my name is Mustafa Ali. You know, I'm an open Muslim, and I'm one of the first guys to enter WWE to kind of go against what the sports entertainment, professional wrestling, and even media as a whole, what the typical role would be for someone of my background. You know, typically we're the bad guy, we're the evil foreigner that's going to wish doom upon America. That was the role that I saw when I was growing up. You know, anyone that looked like me was pigeonholed to this role. And then here I come kicking down those doors, basically saying, no, there's so much more to me. And I feel like that's the same way and that's the message that the women in WWE are doing now. Not just in WWE, in media as a whole. In the past, I feel like women were, you know, categorized into roles, and there was a point in time where women were just featured because of how beautiful they are, and you know, promoting certain, you know, only highlighting them in certain matches, you know, and never looking at them as actual competitors, you know, appreciating them as actual competitors in the ring. But now, whew, you know, women's tag team championships, two different women main roster championships, an NXT women's championship. You know, we had the Mae Young Classic a few years ago. So now it's front and center. Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, they're strong, but they're also these incredible athletes, and they get to show the world what they're capable of.
I think that's truly impressive and empathetic of you to use your own experiences to break down such stereotypes in the workplace. And I think based on these experiences, what do you think is helpful for men to understand to become better allies and advocates for gender equality in their workplace?
I've learned when it comes to empathy and understanding someone else, I don't think it's just a message that I would like to convey to men. I'd like to convey it to women. I'd like to convey it to anybody. I like to convey it to human beings. And that message is, just because it doesn't happen to you doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. So, you know, if I come and I'm experiencing, you know, these hardships, and I'm attributing these hardships, like, you know, sometimes I feel like my name, you know, defines me and it pigeonholes me into this role. Just because that doesn't happen to you, and you shouldn't be so dismissive about it. And I feel like that can be applied to anything: ageism, sexism, racism. Again, if it doesn't happen to you, that doesn't mean that it's not happening to somebody. So us just having this very openness and having conversations like this where we can talk about, if someone honestly believes that, you know, they're not showing sexism or they're not showing racism, have a discussion with them. But when we're having these closed minds of, you know, okay, and you're silently agreeing, but you're really disagreeing, you're not really doing yourself or the world service. You're doing it a disservice. So I'm all for these really uncomfortable, open conversations, because how else are we going to learn about each other? If everyone's quiet and no one's talking, you know, we're either yelling or we're not talking. There's no in between sometimes. Sometimes we just have to find the in between and have a conversation. And I haven't met a problem yet personally. I've not met a problem yet that a conversation hasn't resolved.
Yes, that is really great advice about having these open dialogues.
Poetic.
Yes, exactly. Poetic. Yes, you heard it here first, folks. So with that, as you're giving us this amazing advice, for you, who is your mentor or someone who has been an ally to you on this journey?
You know, unfortunately, he's not here to see a lot of the stuff that I have been blessed with. But also I know that I've earned through hard work is my dad. You know, my dad was such a, you know, it wasn't the typical, you know, treat a lady like a lady type of thing. It was be there for them. You know, sometimes the best way to support anybody, not just a female, is to stand by their side. You don't have to stand in front of them or behind them. Sometimes just standing next to them is enough. And that's something I learned from him, because again, he again, and I hope this isn't misconstrued in any way. The cultural background that I come from sometimes pigeonholes women from that culture into just being housewives, and not working and not getting an education. And, their quote unquote duties is to the home and feeding the kids and taking care of the husband, et cetera, et cetera. And my dad was like, you want to work? Cool. You want to go get an education? Cool. Here, how can I help you? You want me to do and I saw that firsthand, and I saw this representation from mom and dad. You know what I mean? It wasn't either other. And I'm so blessed that again, with this incredible woman that I've married, my wife and I have the exact same ideology when it comes to raising our kids. A funny story is that my daughter was talking to her cousin, and she's like, I wanted this, but my mom and dad, my mom said no. And the cousin goes, well, you should ask your dad, because then, maybe he'll say yes. And my daughter goes, no, they talk to each other about everything. So if mom said no, dad's going to say. And I just love that my daughter, who's 7, just knows, we're a cohesive unit. And if, I'm going to ride with mom and mom's going to ride with me. And we talk about things. And I feel like that solves a lot of problems. And it also helps this next generation when they see mom and dad as, presenting as, and this goes for people of all partnerships, whether it's a house with 2 moms, a house with 2 dads, or however people identify themselves, it's a partnership, parenthood is a partnership. That's the way I look at it. And I believe that's going to help this next generation.
Man, that is so sweet. I'm just going to keep thinking about that story.
Yeah, my daughter's a sweet kid. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, she definitely sounds like it, and y'all sound like an amazing family. And Ali, thank you for all of the advice and all of the stories you shared with us today. And thank you everyone for tuning in to this amazing discussion about allyship.